back to the Who's Jinx. We even know the Who's Jinx, looking Canada soccer and U.S. soccer. Today's video is going to be, as I said in the U.S. video, it's going to be a little bit different than what I normally do in talking about individual games. Instead of talking about the Canada-Uruguay game, I'm going to be roping in the Canada-Qatar and Canada-Uruguay game. Also, I didn't do a video on that because I wanted to do that as a whole. I said that in the U.S. video, but I'm telling you towards the Canadian audience. So we're going to evaluate both Canada's performance and over the course of both games and talk about kind of the good, bad, ugly going into this World Cup after this is the final preparation window come before the November World Cup. So I guess we can start with the good, over the work of these two games. Against a good Qatar team, which I didn't talk about individually like I did with the U.S.-Japan video, but Canada really flashed their colors against Qatar. I mean, they really blitzed through the Qatari defense, and two quick Canadian Canadian attack style goals from Kyle Larin and Jonathan David. Just outstanding performance from both those players, and really just sliced and diced Qatar. And Qatar for the most part, had no answer. And Canada, as I said, for that one, that really just it really just showed how good how lethal this Canadian attack can be against, of course, albeit Qatar is not a strong opponent like Uruguay, but nonetheless, they can show against certain opponents, maybe like a Morocco, on how strong the Canadian counterattack can be. But as I said, going into Uruguay, another good about this was it was kind of a humbling experience. Yes, Canada lost 2-0 to a really, really good opponent, but nonetheless, I'm pretty sure I, along with a lot of other Canada fans, expect this. It's Uruguay. They've got really, really good talent and tough players all around, and it's going to be tough. It was tough in the first place to win against them, but most importantly for Canada, as I said, this basically just just humbled this team and really just reminded them on the big mountain and challenges they're about to face in their group against Belgium, Croatia, and even Morocco. So it just reminds Canada that, hey, do not get ahead of yourselves yet. There is still a whole another mountain or mountains to climb in your group before, so even though that win against Qatar was all fine and good, it's all fine and dandy, Uruguay reminded this that, hey, you guys still got to play Croatia and Belgium, one of the two favorites of the group, and that's going to be tough for sure. So, yeah, and we're going to see how Canada can, as I said, I think they have just at the USA, they're going to have a week to train before the Qatar World Cup starts itself. But then again, it is a humbling experience. Yes, and it reminds Canada, yes, although you guys have been really, really good up to this point, it's nothing compared to what you guys are about to face in your group stage, let alone the World Cup, with all kinds of Uruguay type caliber opponents. So, yeah, this is just a friendly reminder that Canada hasn't seen anything yet. We haven't seen anything yet for this team. And I hope that the players are up for this challenge. But nonetheless, as I forgot to open the question up to you guys as I did in the US video. How are you guys feeling? Are you guys excited? Nervous? Both? Unlike the US video I did, for Canada, I'm actually a little bit more excited than nervous. Because Canada, as we said many times, this is the first time in 36 years that they've been to the World Cup. And so right now, there's obviously a lot of those happy to be here mentality moments, kind of, and but at the same time, there's also a kind of mentality to say, hey, now that we're back in the World Cup, let's show the world what we can do compared to 36 years ago where we didn't score a single goal. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that going on, which I can understand. That's why I'm excited, because I want to see what this Canada team can do. I want to see, how well that they can do against and stack up against quality opponents like Belgium, Croatia, and even Morocco. We saw a little bit of that today with Uruguay, but just Uruguay was just too much for the Canadian defense, and they're just showing why they're one of the top 10 teams in the world to play against, and arguably one of the potential uh, teams to make a deep run in the World Cup tournaments. I would say favorites, but I mean, I would just say they're going to make a deep run at the best, but they're just flashing their colors on why they're historically been and always are a good World Cup team. And Canada, I mean, yes, that's a good thing about this. This is a learning lesson, and it's not really, if you guys heard of something called a quote unquote good loss, that's what this game against Uruguay was. It was a good loss, quote unquote. Although, albeit many people would say, yeah, all losses are bad, but some losses, they're not as. Some losses can also teach lessons, like this Uruguay game. This is definitely a lesson teacher kind of game, as it'll show the Canadian defense how to kind of buckle down and play kind of a low block mentality. I think which is what Canada might play. They might do one of those FIFA common playing style where you park the bus, you play a low block, and you just play off the counter attack and just demonstrate the good old Canadian counter. But I mean, hey, you got to be careful with playing if you play that way against quality teams like that. So to play it safe, it's going to be interesting to see what John Herdman plays. Is he going to play a park the bus against Croatia and Belgium, just get the points and get out of there? Just get 1 point from each game and just win it against Morocco. That's probably the safest bet. Or or does he think that Canada actually at sometimes? And once again, we won't know until they actually play the game itself. So it could either be park the bus, or there could be a belief that, hey, Canada could probably steal one here. So there's all kinds of interesting scenarios and possibilities that can happen in those when they play the World Cup opponents. But for sure, just going back to this window, for sure the Uruguay game was a humbling experience for sure, and it definitely highlights where Canada stands in the world, or on the grand scheme of things, come World Cup time, and how much that they can work on, and also another reminder of the possible challenges that awaits them in their group against Croatia and Belgium especially, and even Morocco. But yeah, that's the good thing. So I'm glad Canada got to play some, as I said in the USA game, I'm glad they got to play some World Cup caliber teams, albeit Qatar is a host nation, so they're in it by default, which is why I say Qatar, no offense to them, but they're a little bit of a weaker team than Uruguay. Obviously, there's a huge drop-off between the teams, but it's just what it is. I'm just glad Canada got to play some kind of World Cup caliber teams. And as I said, for Canada, maybe they could have snuck one more in there, just like I said in the USA game, like kind of what Mexico's doing. They're playing 2 more friendlies on the 6th and the 9th. It kind of would have been nice to see Canada kind of play maybe another. Obviously, play kind of a mid-caliber team, maybe not a Uruguay, but mainly an Iran or an Iran, as they were supposed to play back in June. So it would have been nice to see maybe play another Iran, or maybe even a Japan, or another kind of Asian team, or South Korea. South Korea would have been nice to play as well. Iran and South Korea, some kind of more, not kind of Uruguay opponents, but definitely those kind of tier opponents for Canada before the World Cup, maybe on the 6th and 9th. But nope, Canada's going to regroup in Qatar, or the final roster is going to be dropped on the 9th. And then Canada's going to regroup in Qatar a week before their game, and they're going to start working on, hopefully, what they learned throughout this window especially, and try and integrate that and learn lessons going into their group. So we'll see what John Herdman in this Canada squad can do. But that's the good. Just glad they got exposure. But moving on to the bad, I would say, it's just, it's not as much bad as, other than just you're going into a tough group. That's not really a bad thing, but it is what it is. It's out of Canada's control. It's just, you just got to work with what you have in front of you. You're going into a tough group, and you're going to have to play your A game every single game. Let alone with that, you would have to do that with any group anyway. But for this group, especially for Canada, there is no easy way out. you're going to have to fight your way through it. And I don't even know if that's necessarily a bad thing. That could be a good thing in disguise, because that could also just, if they do well, that could just show the world that Canada, no challenge is tough enough for Canada to overcome. So we're interested to see, how Canada can fare against the stack up, as I said earlier, against big teams like Croatia and Belgium and Morocco to an extent, especially where everyone's counting Canada to finish last in the group and counting them out of the World Cup already, saying they're not getting out of the group stage. But we'll see. That's just one of those we'll see, and then I don't know if that's a bad thing. Now, in terms of the playing style, then again, yes, it's against quality opponents like Uruguay. I don't know what Canada's going to do. They're going to, as I said, they're going to play a low block. They're just going to park the bus, maybe play 5 in the back against Belgium and Croatia, and then just look to use the 2 outside backs as like Alphonso Davies and whoever's like maybe Tejan Buchanan or whoever's playing on the back there to kind of counterattack and do the good old Canadian counter, or are we just going to park the bus and just get out of there with a point for both games, get 2 points, and then win it against Morocco to get 5? Potentially, hopefully, sending Canada through to the next stage. So I don't know how it's all going to shake out. No one knows how it's all going to shake out. Not even John Herdman knows what he's going to do. But it just depends, or maybe he does. But we just got to see whenever Canada gets there to those games, as I said. But I really don't have anything just like terrible to say about this window friendly, other than Canada's just going to have to step up to the plate and just face the music, because it does not get any easier. And they're just going to have to play their best, as obviously CONCACAF was just a warm-up. This has nothing compared to CONCACAF, so it's not really a bad or an ugly thing. More so an ugly thing that you're just going to have to face. You're just going to have to face it. You're going to have to play your A game, and you're going to have to be sharp, because Croatia and Belgium are no joke. Yes, Croatia may be a little old, but they certainly are very, very, very experienced. So yes, although they may be old and slow, even though I think they're still got a little bit of speed in them, they are definitely got veteran experience. Same with Belgium. Yes, Belgium has probably not been performing as much, kind of like England on the big stage, but they still got a heck of a lot of veteran experience. So that's why those 2 teams are favored to get out of the group. And then Morocco, obviously, you can't sleep on them, because they're a good team as well. And anytime you're in the World Cup, anybody's going to be looking to beat anybody. So everybody's going to be on their A game. If you're playing your B game, you're not going to make it. You're going to finish last in the group. And it's going to show. It's going to show who's ready to play and who is just unprepared, or just who's better than who. And yes, also player injuries and who's available is also going to make a difference, and I'm saying that too, because come in 2 months, a lot can change. We're still 2 months out, albeit 54 days is still a lot of time, and anything can change, especially in sports, in the blink of an eye. So you just never know. You just got to take what you give and just play your best game. So that's Canada's story, basically. But overall, just summing up the final friendly window preparation, I'm glad that Canada got some World Cup caliber experience, especially against Uruguay, as a humbling experience. Especially if this is the last game too. Last game, I know it's a good loss, quote unquote, good loss, but it does remind. I believe it sends a reminder to Canada, saying, you guys are in for a real challenge in your group. You got a lot of teams like Uruguay caliber opponents coming up, and yeah, you just better be ready to play. That's all I got to say about that. If you don't bring your A game, this is going to be one terrible World Cup for Canada if they don't bring their A game. And most important for Canada, from what I heard, if we cannot get out of the group, then at the very least, score a goal. At least do that. From what I've heard in the last World Cup, obviously way before I was born, they didn't even score a goal. So if Canada cannot do anything else, at least score a goal. At least score a goal. Make some progress. Score a goal, and I'll be happy. Pretty sure a lot of people will be happy. Obviously, a lot of people want Canada to be further, but if we can't do anything else, which Obviously, we're going to have to see when that time comes, at least score a goal. But, as I said, this win, I'm just happy that they played these 2 games in this preparation window because it just emphasizes the importance and the challenges on what Canada and this Canadian team will be facing in their group come November in 2 months. So, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Before I close it out, just want to once again open it up to you guys. How do you guys feel? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Both? Afraid? I mean, that pretty much means the same as nervous. Anything, and also as I said in the U.S. video, tell me where you want to see Canada improve in terms of the playing style or anything like that coming up to the World Cup. But yeah, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Also, tell your friends to hit the bell notification, and that way you know any video of any kind is uploaded or posted. And lastly, tell all your friends. I will see you in November.